If you really enjoyed The Maze Runner and The Matrix, then you will really enjoy this. My sister has read the series and she absolutely loves it, and that's not like a spoiler, that's literally on the back. It says all of these characters have a very special place in my heart. So this one here is kind of like ACOTAR. So if you love books like mystery thrillers set in a school, would definitely recommend this. When I read the prologue in high school, I almost didn't finish the book. I almost gave it back, but I was like, okay, I'm just gonna read a couple chapters and see what I think. And now it's one of my favorite books of all time. Hey guys, and welcome back to my channel. So as you guys can see by the title of this video, we are going to be talking about books that I personally think deserve more hype. So these are books that like I personally have read that I haven't really seen anywhere, or I haven't seen anyone talk about. They're not popular on like BookTok or anything at the time that I'm filming this video. If you guys want some recommendations of books that are not popular on BookTok, ones that kind of fly under the radar, then just keep watching. So I've got lots of different genres to share with you. I've got some non-fiction, some YA thriller, some fantasy, I've got a paranormal fiction series, I've got some Christian fiction, some dystopian, and some romance. So let's jump straight into the YA dystopian books. I feel like dystopian is a really bingeable genre to read. It's always one that like if I'm feeling slumpy, I would tend to gravitate towards a dystopian book. The first book again will come as no surprise if you guys have been on my channel for a really long time, and that is The Loop by Ben Oliver. So this is the first book in a trilogy. Obviously the first book is The Loop, second book is The Block, and the third book is called The Ark. But this one here you are following Luca, and Luca is a prisoner on death row. He is in a prison called The Loop. This prison has these things called delays, where inmates can take what's called a delay, where the staff will test new technology on these prisoners to try and enhance life in the outside world so that people can live longer. If these prisoners do these things called delays, they get their execution date pushed back. So it's kind of like the only way to live in this prison. This is a very isolating prison. You don't have any contact with any of the other inmates, and the prison is controlled by AI. But one day the entire system glitches and it's kind of like a race to escape. If you really enjoyed The Maze Runner and The Matrix, then you will really enjoy this. It's very fast paced, very high stakes. There's a lot of tension. There's a little bit of romance in this series as well. From where you start to where you end is just wild. Like there is so much that happens. The pacing in book 2 is a little bit weird, but book 3 kind of ties everything all together, and the pacing is really good. Pacing's really good in this one here. It's very short chapters, which is also really helpful if you're wanting to binge it. It does read quite YA, so just go into it knowing that. But I really loved this series. I got my sister on the series, I got my best friend on the series, and it's one that I will always recommend to people when they want something fast paced. And the last dystopian book that I have is this one here. So this one is Delirium by Lauren Oliver. So this one here, you are following this chickie who lives in a world where love is a disease. From a very young age, these kids have been taught that love is harmful and it's something that you need to get rid of in order to be a fully functioning person in society. I think it's when they turn 18, they have this operation that removes love from their system, and it's kind of like a way to try and just make society run as smooth as possible, because they believe that like if you love somebody, you act irrationally, you're not thinking properly. It's how broken homes end up happening. Then one day she meets somebody and like a little romance ensues. The story kind of goes from there. This is also the first book in a trilogy. So the second book is called Pandemonium, third book is called Requiem. I have all of the books. I've only read the first one as of right now, but it is a series that I want to continue this year as well. My sister has read the series and she absolutely loves it. I feel like it's very similar in terms of the concept of Uglies by Scott Westerfeld. I have read the Uglies series. I enjoyed the first book, didn't mind the second book, but the third book I found really boring. But I feel like there's a lot of like crossover in terms of ideas and things. Now we will go into a paranormal fiction, urban fantasy kind of vibes. The official genre for it is paranormal fiction, but I would say it's more like urban fantasy. And that is the Die For Me trilogy by Amy Plum. So the first book is obviously Die For Me. The second book is Until I Die, and then the third book is called If I Should Die. In this story, you are following this chickie. Her and her sister are orphans, and they go to Paris to live with their grandparents. While they're in Paris, this main chickie meets this guy, and this guy, she kind of like thinks he's a little bit mysterious, but she knows that like something's not quite right with him, and that's not like a spoiler, that's literally on the back. It says he's no normal human, and he puts his life at risk every single day. And so there's a little bit of a romance that ensues. There's also a lot of political intrigue. This chick is just very intrigued, so she's trying to like figure out who this guy is, what he is, while also trying not to get herself killed. It's kind of like her experiencing love for the first time. If you really liked Twilight, like if you enjoyed the Twilight books growing up, I feel like you will really enjoy this. I read this in high school and absolutely loved it. I've only got the first book as of right now, but I definitely want to reread the series. I might reread it this year or maybe next year. Next up, I'm going to talk about a Christian fiction series. So even if you're not Christian, I still feel like you could read this, but it has a lot of like Christian elements to it. And that is the Left Behind series by Tim LaHaye and Jerry B. Jenkins. Some Christians really like the series, other Christians don't like the series, but me personally, I read this series when I was in high school and absolutely loved it. Me and my best friend were like reading it at the same time. We would like get out the books at the library each week, so it's just very like nostalgic for me as well. This is a long book. This is I think it's a 12 book series, so it's not for the faint-hearted. You have Left Behind, which is the first book, but you can always read book 1 and try it and see what you think. You are following Ray, and Ray is a pilot, and Chloe is the daughter, and she's like just coming home to like see her family and stuff. On this day, a bunch of people all over the world disappear, and they're just trying to figure out where they've gone, how to get them back, and then there is so much that ensues. It's very like high stakes, a lot of tension. Every book there's just like so much going on. Again, it's another series that I would love to reread. My husband has also started the series, and I know that Rachel wants to do another reread, so maybe Rachel and I can do a reread of the series, because there's just so much in them that happens, you just want to keep reading them. Alright, next we will go into fantasy. So I have a couple of fantasy books to share with you, and they are both YA. I love a good YA fantasy book. Again, the first book is going to come as no surprise if you guys have been on my channel for a while, but it is the Miss Peregrine's Home for Peculiar Children series by Ransom Riggs. So this series is an urban fantasy series. There is technically 7 books if you include the little novella, but the novella is not essential to the story. The novella is kind of just like the history of their world. If you want to read it, you can. If not, you don't have to. This one is the first book here. This is obviously Miss Peregrine's Home for Peculiar Children. It is a movie as well, but in this story you are just following Jacob, and Jacob is kind of just like your ordinary average kid living his life. A message to find the lady in the loop. He has no idea what it means, so he goes on a quest to try and figure out what this means, and then once he works out what it means, it leads him on an adventure, and he finds Miss Peregrine and her peculiar children. They also go on a lot of adventures, all these kids. I think there's like 10 kids or something, and all of these kids are not normal kids. Like they all have some sort of power. Again, this is very like high stakes. There's a lot of tension. Where you start in the series and where you end up is just so wild. I just honestly love the series. Like all of these characters have a very special place in my heart. Okay, my battery just died, but we're back. Another thing that I really like about these series is that they have all these really old like Polaroids in the story. Like some of them are pretty like standard, but some of them are just like straight up odd. Like ones like this. They're all 100% authentic vintage Polaroids, and Ransom Riggs has kind of crafted the stories around these Polaroids and given these Polaroids a meaning. I just think it's so creative and so cool. You definitely have to have like a little bit of an imagination. Again, is one of my favorite series of all time. I just think it is so cleverly written. They're always very fast paced. So you have the first book, which is obviously Miss Peregrine's Home for Peculiar Children. You have book 2, which is Hollow City, book 3, which is Library of Souls, book 4, which is The Map of Days, Days, book 5, which is The Conference of the Birds, and then book 6, which is The Desolations of Devil's Acre, and then you have the novella, which is The Tales of the Peculiar. Again, it is a little bit more of a longer series with 6 or 7 books depending if you read the tales or not. I already want to reread it, and I just finished the series last year. Next book wasn't in my thumbnail because I thought I had grabbed it from downstairs. That is Every Day by David Levithan. There is also a little companion novel to this called Another Day by David Levithan, and it's essentially the same story but just told from the love interest's point of view. So in this story here, you are following a being called A. I think A is kind of like described as a consciousness. A inhabits human bodies. This consciousness can only inhabit bodies of the same age that he or she has been existing for. So if this consciousness has been existing for 16 years, they can only inhabit 16-year-olds and things like that. But one day this consciousness inhabits a body of a guy and meets this girl called Rhiannon, and this consciousness just cannot stop thinking about Rhiannon. Fantastical romance kind of vibes. It's set in like a world like today, but because it's like the consciousness, I don't know if you would classify it as dystopian. On Google it's classified as fantasy, so I put it in the fantasy. It might be like urban fantasy. I just feel like this book needs more hype. It definitely like talks about some hard-hitting things because it just kind of shows you that like everyone has their own battles and things that they're going through, and so it definitely like encourages you not to judge someone too quickly. I would definitely check the trigger warnings going into this because there are definitely some more heavy scenes in this book, and this consciousness isn't like out to kill people. It's not a dark consciousness. It just kind of like experiences someone else's life for a day. But I really loved this. I read this in high school and absolutely ate it up. Again, would love to do a reread of this. I do really want to get a physical copy of the female's point of view as well because I really enjoyed that. There is a movie of this as well. The last book that I have in the fantasy category to recommend is Hunted by Megan Spooner. So this one here is kind of like ACOTAR but without all the dark things at the end of ACOTAR. If you know, you know. Again, this is a YA Beauty and the Beast retelling. So you just have this chick who is a hunter. She goes out in the forest and ends up encountering this beast. She ends up getting taken by the beast back to his castle. Again, there's a little bit of a romance involved, but you also get a few pages like now and then of the beast's point of view, which I think was a really nice touch. You don't get like heaps, but you get enough to kind of like understand like what he's going through and stuff. I read this pretty quickly as well. This was one that I had borrowed from the library, but I really liked it, so I got my own physical copy of it. Just if you're wanting another Beauty and the Beast retelling and you enjoyed ACOTAR, then I would definitely recommend picking this up. It's not written in a way where it's anything special, like the writing in ACOTAR is definitely better, but the plot and the concept is very much like same. Next up, we will do a non-fiction book. This one here. This one is The Girl Who Fell from the Sky by Emma Carey. I put this in here. I feel like this is probably a little bit more popular than some of the other ones, but I still feel like I don't see as many people talking about this as there probably should be. This is Emma Carey's memoir, and Emma Carey was in a skydiving accident where she free fell, was it 14,000 feet? Yeah, and she survived. So it's kind of just like her story of her resilience. She kind of recounts the accident and her recovery as well. It was such an inspiring read, and I would definitely recommend picking it up if you haven't already. Before I do the mystery thrillers, I am going to quickly do one romance book as well. So the romance book that I want to recommend to you guys is No Funny Business by Amanda Eskell. I think it's Amanda Eskell. If I am wrong, I apologize. But this one here, you are following this chickie who used to work in a law firm, but she quit her job because she really wants to be a stand-up comedian, and then she gets to be featured on this like very well-known comedians in his performance tour thing, and so you kind of like go on a road trip with them as she performs at all these comedy bars and things like that. The humor in it is really good, so if you're wanting something that will just make you laugh, then I would recommend. From what I remember, there wasn't really much spice. I do also really want to get a physical copy of this book. Now we will move into the last category, which is like mystery thriller. The first mystery thriller that I want to recommend to you guys is The Magpie Society duology by Zoe Sugg and Amy McCulloch. This is obviously written by Zoella, who is here on YouTube, and her editor as well. They collabed on a story and came up with the Magpie Society duology. One for sorrow, and then you have two for joy, which is book 2. That kind of just is like playing on a British legend with magpies. And in this book here, you have two main characters. You have Audrey and Ivy. I think Ivy is the British one and Audrey is the American one. I'm pretty sure Zoe wrote Ivory and Amy wrote Audrey, I'm pretty sure. Audrey has just come to this boarding school. She comes from like a very like rich family, and Ivy is just like your pretty standard typical English boarding student, like works really hard, gets good grades. Audrey, I think, doesn't really want to be there because she wants to go back to America, but her dad wanted her to like have some like cultural experience in Britain. They end up being roommates, so it's kind of like a forced proximity situation, and there's a lot of like twists and turns because at this school, one of the girls in the previous year, I think that there is speculation that she took her own life, but everyone who like is at this school doesn't believe that because they like knew this girl and like knew what she was like, and there's no way. So you're also like trying to figure out that mystery throughout the series. So if you love books like mystery thrillers set in a school, would definitely recommend this. It's also YA, so like really easy to read. It's very bingeable as well, this series. Next up we have Every Breath by Ali Mani. So this one again is a YA mystery series where you have these two friends, they're like high school friends, and the guy is like very into forensics, and one day they're just like hanging out and this guy finds one of the homeless guys in his town that like he would talk to a little bit dead, and so they kind of like go on this little quest to try and solve this murder basically on how this guy died. I have only read the first book. I read this in high school and didn't realize that it was a series. It's a trilogy, again YA, so very easy to read. And then the last book that I have to share with you guys will again come as no surprise if you have been here on my channel for a while. That is Black Ice by Becca Fitzpatrick. Again, YA thriller, so not as like intense to read as some other thrillers. This one here, you are just following Britt and Corby, and they are going away for, I think it's their winter break. They are going up to like the mountains to meet up with Corby's brother. On the way their car breaks down because it's like snowing and stuff, so they are kind of stranded in the middle of nowhere. There's no cell service, and they see a house with some lights on in the distance, and so they go to this house to just try and get whoever's in this house to come and help them to like fix their car. And they encounter two guys who take them hostage. These two guys are lost on this mountain, so the only way that they will let these girls go is if these girls help direct them off the mountain. So that's kind of the premise of this. There's obviously like more that happens in this book. There is a romance in this book at some point as well, and there was a lot of like twists and turns and things like that. I read this in high school and really loved it. I do also want to do a reread of this. I have got my best friend on this book, and I also got Phil to read it a few years ago, who's my husband. He really enjoyed it as well. I feel like if you enjoyed 5 Survive by Holly Jackson, you will really enjoy this because it's a similar kind of premise with like the car breaking down. There's just no like sniper, it's just these guys that take them hostage. The prologue in this is very dark, so just get past the prologue. You can't skip the prologue though because you need it for later on in the story, but the whole story isn't as dark as the prologue, because when I read the prologue in high school I almost didn't finish the book. I almost gave it back, but I was like, okay, I'm just gonna read a couple chapters and see what I think, and now it's one of my favorite books of all time. Very bingeable, very high stakes. So there we go guys, that is my list of underrated books that I think deserve more hype. I had actually tried to film this video once, but I filmed it at our old place and then I just felt like it was too old to upload, and then I had like other books that I wanted to include and others that I wanted to take out. So I'm really happy with this list. I honestly love every single book on this list. If you want to read any of these books after watching this video, then let me know what ones down below, or if you guys have read any of these books, then let me know your thoughts down below as well. If you guys enjoyed this video, don't forget to give it a big thumbs up and subscribe to my channel if you have not already. Please make sure to turn on the notifications and check out my social media. It's always linked down below. If you guys want to watch more book related content, I have an entire playlist called Reading. Stay tuned if you want to see more book content from me. That is all that I have for this video, and I shall see you guys in my next one. Bye.